Lu Jinian lowered his head, looking at the access card in his hands. Walking over to a locker, he lifted his head and punched in the passcode, throwing the access card in before slamming the door shut. Returning back to the sofa calmly, he continued to work on his computer. After about 15 minutes, he heard a car entering. His lips curved upwards as his fingers continued to fly across the keyboard. When Qiao Hao's footsteps inched closer, Lu Jinian had already hidden away his smile, resuming a focused expression. Qiao Hao entered softly, careful not to disturb Lu Jinian while he worked. She went to a sofa far away from him and entertained herself with her phone. Looking sideways, Lu Jinian's attention was always on her. Qiao Hao sat on the sofa, turning often to look through the window in boredom. After a while, he swept a glance over her, pausing momentarily when he saw the medicine at her side. He placed the laptop on the coffee table in front of him, then walked towards the side of the room to grab a bottle of mineral water. He pretended as though he'd forgotten to eat his medicine, swallowing 2 pills. Once again, he looked towards Qiao Hao, throwing the television remote control over before walking back to the sofa to resume his work. Qiao Hao switched on the television, lowering the volume the instant the screen lit up. She held on to the remote control, punching onto the buttons, flicking through the various channels before finally stopping on a movie channel. Producer Sun was currently being interviewed, and at the bottom of the screen, it mentioned that Empress Dowager would be aired shortly after. Empress Dowager was the movie that garnered Lu Jinian his first Best Screen Actor title. It was a classic historical romance that producer Sun had invested in. Qiao Hao placed the remote control down and waited for producer Sun to finish his interview so that she could watch Lu Jinian's movie. Lu Jinian noticed that she kept flicking through the channels only to stop on the channel with producer Sun. Even though she hadn't been interacting much with the man recently, Lu Jinian was still well aware of his intentions. He had wanted to be her sugar daddy, offering her the role of a first female lead. Lu Jinian didn't want to compare himself with such a guy, but he couldn't help destroying the image of anyone that had an interest in her. He fell into a deep thought before acting as though he wanted to gossip with Qiao Hao. Casually, he stated, "There seems to be something going on with producer Sun and Lin Shi." Qiao Hao didn't seem to like Lin Shi, hence anyone associated with her would automatically be blacklisted. Just as he expected, even though Qiao Hao didn't react violently to the news, it was clear that there was a flicker of unhappiness on her face. Lu Jinian kept his mask of calm, but it was obvious that a hint of satisfaction had tinted his face. Satisfied, he looked back at his screen to continue his work. Producer Sun ended shortly and Empress Dowager started airing. At that time, Lu Jinian was much younger, with less calm and restraint on his face. But just like right now, he was mesmerizing.